Hey everybody, I'm Killjoy Jake, and instead of having friends, I have horror movies. Today we are doing a Terrifier 3 theory video marathon, going back through some of the craziest theories I've had in the last year or so on this upcoming threequel. Do they hold up, or do I need to update them a little bit with some of the new information that's come out over the past 12 months or so? Probably the latter there. Now let's marathon some of my favorite Terrifier 3 videos. So I wanted to start with this one specifically because I know I'm wrong about a couple of things in this one, and I'm excited to kind of start off with this and basically tear it to shreds. Okay, let's get into this. Listen up, Terrifier fans! The new teaser that just came out this past Monday fooled all of us! Well, maybe. At least I have a theory regarding that, because I think that the Terrifier 3 teaser may actually be a dream sequence. How did you deduce such a thing, Jake? And to that I would say, nice job using the word deduce. It's a fun word to use, deduce. But now let's talk all about this crazy theory.
Well, sometimes that is better.
So getting right into this, drawing from last year's Terrifier 2, you'll remember that there was a dream sequence where Sienna Shaw wakes up at the Clown Cafe. I'm still not really sure what this cafe of clown variety truly is. It features an incredibly catchy tune that I hope gets a metal cover one day, and has some really bizarre things happening within it. It's almost like the Art the Clown show that's made for kids, who are also just adults dressed up as kids. There's a nun next to some homeless people saying, "Feed this man! Why aren't you feeding this man?" Is it all just a bunch of nonsense, or is it going somewhere in Terrifier 3? Well, maybe we'll find out soon. Personally, if I had to guess, I'm assuming it's almost like a Freddy Krueger distorted reality nightmare, kind of like how we saw in like pretty much every Nightmare on Elm Street film. Writer and director Damien Leone has also said that one of his biggest influences for Terrifier 2 is Nightmare on Elm Street 3, Dream Warriors. A lot of people want to say that's the best sequel. Me personally, New Nightmare is my favorite, but Dream Warriors is definitely a close second in that department. So with that being said, it's not exactly something shocking if Terrifier 3 once again features a sequence where Sienna falls asleep and has some kind of up Art the Clown dream. Before I go any further with this theory though, I do want to thank Anthony from Child of the Corn for giving me this idea on stream this past Monday. He's an awesome horror content creator, so make sure to go subscribe to his page. The link for that will be in the description of this video. But Anthony approached me Monday with this theory that maybe the Terrifier 3 teaser is one of Sienna Shaw's dreams, and there's actually a surprising amount of clues that support this idea. First and foremost, the little girl featured in the teaser trailer itself strikes a resemblance to Sienna or actress Lauren Levera. She has the same hair color and a similar facial structure, which I know is kind of a weird, minute detail, but it's all there. I mean, if there is a sequence in this movie which features a younger Sienna from some time in the past, wouldn't this actress be perfect for that role? I think so. There's more than just a striking resemblance, though. On her wall, you'll notice that there's a costume there that definitely did not need to be there for this teaser trailer. Now, if you remember from Terrifier 2, Sienna Shaw is a cosplayer, costumer, whatever you want to call her. She makes her own costumes. That's her whole thing. And me personally, when it comes to set deck, I don't think that this was necessary to tell the story that happens throughout this teaser, to have that costume in the background. Maybe it's a little Easter egg to tell us, hey, this is young Sienna. It also appears to be some kind of fairy costume, which in my opinion is kind of similar to the Battle Angel thing that she has in Terrifier 2, maybe an evolution, one thing to the next. I don't know. You might also remember Exhibit C. Was there an Exhibit A and B before it? No, but this was the poster that was handed out to people that went to the re-release that happened a couple of weeks ago. And what is at the top of this poster, you might ask? A little Sienna Angel thing, because it's wearing the exact same costume Lauren Levera has in the movie. Didn't notice that before, did ya? You might have, but let me have this moment. Come on. All right, that one was a bit of a stretch. And on top of that, there are some things in the teaser that would disprove that, but I've actually debunked both of these next 2 points, and I feel like they both could once again support the idea of this whole dream sequence. When maybe young Sienna walks down the stairs in the teaser trailer, you can see a bunch of family pictures on the wall. Now, this goes against my whole theory because you will see 2 boys in one of the pictures, one of the only ones that's like super visible. The rest of them are a little out of focus, but if there's 2 little boys in the picture frame and the only Shaw family members that we know is the mom, the dad, and the 2 kids, who is that other boy? Well, in most people's houses, including my own, I do have pictures hung up of other family members out there besides just my immediate family. In fact, I'm so sentimental, I even have pictures of me and my friends drinking a gigantic Moscow Mule. Trust me, I won't make that mistake again. Oh my God. To go along with that point, and bear with me here, we have the little girl walk into that family room with the fireplace and the Christmas tree, and on the back wall, you'll see 5 stockings. Now, what we know about the Shaw family at the moment is that there's 4 members: the dad, the mom, Jonathan, and Sienna. But you'll notice in this last shot of the teaser trailer where we get to see Art the Clown eating Santa's milk and cookies, that one of the stockings might say grandma or grandpa. I can't tell, but I can definitely see a G in there. That's a cursive G if I've ever seen one. Now, both of these points that could just disprove my theory actually lead to a bigger question about Terrifier 3. With both of our characters presumably being under the age of 18, who are they going to be staying with in Terrifier 3 if both of their parents are dead? Wow, that got morbid fast. It's the Terrifier franchise though. Come on, what big of a surprise is that? It gets a little morbid, oh no. I think it would make a lot of sense if in Terrifier 3, maybe the 2 characters are staying with a grandmother or someone else outside of their immediate family because, you know, once again, everyone else is dead that we know of. So not only could this be some kind of indication as to where we're going story-wise in Terrifier 3, but it also could give us more details on this father figure who is very mysterious right now. One of the biggest criticisms I've heard of Terrifier 2, which is in my opinion my favorite aspect of this franchise, is how mysterious the last film was. It sets up even more questions than the first one posed and doesn't really answer too much, but personally I'm okay with that. The moment we get all of the questions answered is when we lose interest in the franchise. Look at Lost Season 6. You don't see too many people raving about that season because it answered all the questions in ways that some people find not satisfactory. My question to that is, why does every mysterious question need an answer? Maybe it's better to just live in the mystery. But what I will say is maybe just giving us another stroke of the brush as to what all the answers are here could make the conversation a little more interesting. So let's say maybe grandma or grandpa over on the dad's side specifically is where Sienna Shaw and Jonathan are both living. That could give us some kind of insight into who the dad character is, once again giving us just another stroke of the brush on the gigantic canvas that is the Terrifier franchise right now. Not only would that be a great direction for the story, but it also could be a fun way to answer some of the questions from the previous film. So is this Terrifier 3 teaser a dream after all? Well, maybe. My running theory right now is that it is a dream that Sienna is having at the beginning of Terrifier 3, and could be this f***ed up opening that Damien Leone was talking about in a recent interview. Damien recently confessed that he was shopping around the Terrifier franchise to different film studios in Hollywood, but as he was going about this process, he realized that the first 5 minutes of his script wouldn't necessarily be something that studios would want to make, or in the way that he described it, they would want to water it down. And pretty much everyone understands, including Damien Leone, thank God, that nobody would want to see a PG-13 Terrifier film. So could this be the messed up opening scene that Damien Leone is describing? And does that make my video from 2 days ago even sillier if I'm right? Okay, so hear me out on this, right? If this is some kind of up, distorted dream that Sienna is having about some Christmas morning from winter's past, and Art the Clown has invaded this memory she's having, where Art literally takes the axe to her, then not only is it fake in our own world to begin with, but it's also a fake sequence within the Terrifier franchise. So that means even within the Terrifier universe, Art the Clown still would not be actually killing a little girl, even though we may see it on screen. For my friends out there that don't want to see Art the Clown hack up a little girl, I'm curious if that makes it better for you or not. It's food for thought at the very least, that's all I'm saying. But what do you guys think about the Terrifier 3 teaser? Do you think my deducing skills are on point, or do you think I'm full of shit? Leave me something about it in the comments below.
Okay. Man, I'm so glad that I do videos differently nowadays, because that was just all over the place. Wow.
So first of all, I was pretty dead set on the dream sequence idea, which I'm still pretty certain about, but not that scene in particular. I do believe that a dream sequence will happen in Terrifier 3, but it's going to be all that demon BS that we got to see in that brand new trailer that came out a couple weeks ago. David Howard Thornton has pretty much already confirmed that this sequence with a little girl possibly getting attacked by Art the Clown is going to actually happen in the film, and we've seen a more reconstructed version of it. I was really obsessed with this character kind of looking like Sienna, and I should have just focused the whole video on that. I go on this rant about like maybe Art doesn't actually kill her or something. I don't know. I don't know what that was all about. I wish I had stayed focused there a little bit. That's hard for me to do with this ADHD brain I have though. I also start to speculate on who Sienna Shaw is living with, like some other family members. I guessed a grandmother, grandfather, something like that, so we could learn a little more about the father character, which I do think we will learn about in Terrifier 3, but obviously it's been confirmed that Sienna will be staying with her aunt and uncle. And with the 5-year time jump, it almost makes it feel like Sienna hasn't like moved on with her life, considering she's still staying with family members maybe. I'm not 100% 100% sure which angle they're gonna go with there. It's not confirmed yet, but I'm like 99% sure that Jason Patric is going to be playing Sienna Shaw's father in this new movie too, so I feel like that might be where we get the answers to our questions. We have yet to see Jason Patric in most of the marketing. We just got that one still of him sitting in front of a bunch of drawings, which sounds a lot like the dad. You'll remember he was an artist. He had a sketchbook that was a pretty prominent plot device in the last film. I am kind of shocked though that was 10 months ago, and I'm like, I'm close. I was wrong about some of the specifics, but I was right about, like, you know, living with the family and stuff, living with another side of the family. I'm pretty impressed with myself. I'm like, wow, okay. Although that video was very sporadic and very just all over the place and hard to follow at certain times, I did really appreciate the fact that I did my research, and I'm proud of myself for that. The next video we're talking about is covering some of the secret lore that is in Terrifier 2, and my guesses as to where it's going to go in the next film. This video is called Who is Art the Clown? The Secret Lore of Terrifier 2. Many Terrifier fans are asking themselves, what the heck is going on in that sequel? There's a little ghost girl that apparently resurrected Art the Clown from the dead. Sienna's dad has some kind of mysterious connection to him, as well as having this blade that brings Sienna back to life in the film. And the biggest question of all is, what the heck is Art the Clown? What even is he at this point? In today's video, I have done way too much research to try to come up with some sort of answer. So let's just get into it right now.
Gobble, gobble, mother.
So before we get into this, there's something I want to preface this entire theory video with. What I'm about to present to you is my leading theory as to what I believe is happening in the Terrifier franchise and things that may get resolved in the next film, coming out on October 25th of next year. I have absolutely no idea if this is true or not. I just rewatched the movies like a lot and did some research on what Damien Leone has said about the film and some cut scenes. There's a lot of little information and tidbits we're gonna get into in this video. But honestly, if Terrifier 3 does not confirm any of these things, I don't really care at all. I love how mysterious Terrifier 2 is and adds to the mystique of who Art the Clown really is. It's no fun when we get all the answers. The more unknown something is, the scarier and more interesting it becomes. So although you may want those answers, it's that drive for wanting the answers that keeps you coming back for more. So this mystery starts to unfold first and foremost with the little pale girl. Portrayed by Emily McLean in her first acting role ever, the little pale girl is truly one of the most mysterious elements to the Terrifier franchise thus far. And my god, she has a disgusting introduction. But in these opening moments of Terrifier 2, we actually learn a lot about the character without even really realizing it. First and foremost, we know that she's a ghost that can only be seen by a select few. Within the movie, the only people that actually see her are Art the Clown, Sienna Shaw, and Jonathan Shaw. You'll remember that random guy sleeping at the laundromat just saw a bloody clown completely naked playing patty cake with himself. That sounds really gross out of context. It also appears as if she's the one that's going after Jonathan and Sienna, not Art the Clown. She's only leading him to them. Damien Leone himself confirms this too.
People know that there's a supernatural entity that has brought Art back from the dead and sort of drives him through this entire movie and actually guides him to you and Sienna and puts him on this mission.
Later on in the film, when Jonathan and Sienna are looking through their father's sketchbook, they come across newspaper articles specifically about a little girl who was killed on the circus grounds. Most likely the same circus we see later on in the film, where Art the Clown is still residing. This newspaper article, written by a Wes Torrance, reads, "A grim fate was in store for a young girl after a celebration at the town carnival this Halloween." Halloween, as we know, is when Art the Clown likes to strike. 10-year-old Emily Crane to the right, which is also a picture of Emily McLean, was last seen alive cheerfully roaming the carnival grounds earlier Friday evening. As the night progressed and the attractions closed, family members grew concerned as to her whereabouts. Several carnival goers worked alongside family and friends to search for the young girl, which came to an end shortly after it began. Crane's lifeless, mangled body was discovered in a makeup trailer just outside the main event grounds. Taking a pause for a second there, you may remember a sequence in Terrifier 2 where Jonathan Shaw wakes up in a makeup trailer where the little pale girl reveals herself to him and she's all mangled in the face and disgusting. My guess here is this is Art the Clown's first victim, which is why Art keeps seeing her and is the one that is sort of this weird guardian angel. But there's more to it than just that. Continuing this article, it says Crane was the daughter of two prominent circus performers, whose family also includes a long line of very popular, well-respected circus acts, mimes, and similar talents. Unfortunately, a thumb is blocking some of the rest of the article, but if I had to guess what it says, it's suspected that her death may be linked to a series of murders, and it trails off after that. Okay, so I have a bunch of big questions after that. Obviously, Art the Clown comes from this circus, most likely the same one we saw at the end of Terrifier 2. But who actually are Emily Crane's parents, and how is Art the Clown related to them in some sort of way, as we learned from that previous news article? I've seen a lot of people theorize that maybe Art the Clown is her father. I think maybe somehow he is related to her, but one thing is for sure, we have met her mother already. You might remember the cat lady from Terrifier 1 who was carrying around a baby doll, claiming it was her own daughter. What was her daughter's name? Emily. So what I'm assuming from this is after Emily died, the cat lady, formerly her mother, went insane, picked up a baby doll somewhere, and became a homeless drifter, which is really sad and depressing if that's true. On top of that, in the first Terrifier film, Art the Clown is actually like swaddling the baby at one point, and then Art the Clown and the cat lady share a wholesome moment together. Not really though, because y'all know how that ends. But is the little pale girl actually the soul of Emily Crane? I would say no. The way that Damien Leone talks about the little pale girl being this supernatural entity, I just don't think this is actually Emily Crane. I think that it's maybe the devil, bear with me now, taking the form of Emily Crane so that it can influence Art the Clown. Now, if you thought this video was a stretch to begin with, oh, it's only gonna get crazier, because I also believe that Art the Clown, including other characters in the Terrifier universe, have been infected with some kind of demon virus from hell. It was confirmed by that news article earlier that Emily Crane is 100% dead, but there is a character that was victimized by Art the Clown that did not die and actually survived her attacks. That's Victoria Hayes. Now, before the events of the original Terrifier, Victoria Hayes was just this normal college girl who was vibing on Halloween night when she had to go pick up her sister Tara. After getting her face mangled by Art the Clown, though, on that fateful night, she slowly starts to lose her mind and become a killer herself. I think that Victoria Hayes was infected by the same thing that happened to Art the Clown, maybe way before the events of the first two films. The other thing I should note is that Victoria Hayes' one eye glows yellow, just like the little pale girl's earlier on in Terrifier 2, just like Art the Clown's eyes from the original Terrifier short film. All of these entities, I believe, are possessed by whatever this demon virus is. Now, where did I get this idea of some kind of Evil Dead style demon virus thing from hell? In an interview with ComingSoon.net, Chris Jericho, who's featured in the after the credits scene, talks about how they had to retool that entire ending because a recent horror flick beat them to the punch. The quote reads, "That scene was actually a lot longer, which led to the actual ending of the movie. Another horror movie came out in the same time frame over the last year. They had the same ending, so we had to recut it and reshoot it. So it was actually a longer scene than that." During a Reddit AMA, Damien Leone was asked to clarify Jericho's statements. While he didn't outright say the exact movie that mirrored his original ending, Leone name-dropped the director of the project, which made it a lot easier to connect these dots. He says, "They didn't steal our idea, we just happened to have the same one. It may or may not have had something to do with a recent James Wan film." And the most recent James Wan horror flick is, of course, Malignant. If we're talking about directing and not producing, of course. Atomic Monster pumps out horror flicks like it's nothing. Spoiler alert for Malignant if you have not seen the film, but at the end of that movie, it's revealed that Annabelle Wallis's character is secretly the killer the entire time, but without her knowing, because she has a sentient tumor in the back of her head that comes out and kills everybody in the film. So Terrifier 2's original ending was probably going to be Victoria Hayes getting a tumor in her brain that would be Art the Clown growing out of her. If that doesn't scream some kind of viral infection, I don't know what does. Tumors are also a theme in Terrifier 2, considering that Sienna's dad was also suffering from one. This lends itself to a really crazy backstory for Art the Clown, who was normal and just a human being at first, who might have somehow conjured up a portal to hell, which then infected his mind, and then everything that happens in the movies happens, because if you're infected by a demon virus, you're going to be chaotic evil at best. So just to recap, Art the Clown was just some guy in clown makeup who conjured up a portal to hell, got infected with an Evil Dead virus, infected other people in the Terrifier franchise, and now has the devil who's manipulating him in a quest to stop Sienna Shaw for whatever reason. That leads us to the next chapter of this video, though, talking about Sienna's father. How was he involved with all of this? You'll remember that that sketchbook we were talking about earlier was Sienna's father's, which Jonathan had kept all these years. It had newspaper articles about what was going on with Emily Crane. It had pictures of all the deaths that happened in the previous film. There was a lot of mysterious things introduced here. The other thing we learn about Sienna's father, which once again backs up the whole demon virus thing, is that he had a brain tumor that made him abusive impulsive and crazy. He then did this to himself by driving into a substation. So what I think happened is Sienna's dad helped Art the Clown open this portal to hell. They both got infected, and Sienna's dad had to stop himself the only way that he knew how, because he knew what was going to happen. Maybe because he was infected too, he was able to see the future and see like what the demon's plans were. I know this is getting ridiculous, but I'm telling you, there's got to be something here. That's how he was able to figure out that Sienna was some kind of big player in this evil game. This leads us to the biggest misdirection of Terrifier 2 though. In their father's sketchbook, there's a picture of Sienna cutting off somebody's head specifically. I would argue it's not Art the Clown's. Look at this drawing. That's not Art the Clown. That looks like some kind of evil demon. If this was supposed to be some prophecy like what happens in Evil Dead 2, for instance, we would have seen an exact one-to-one as to what happened. But this is not that. That's not Art the Clown. What I believe is Sienna Shaw is prophesized to stop this demon, the devil, whatever it is, that is the little pale girl. She's the real antagonist of these movies. Art the Clown is just a pawn in their game. That's why the little pale girl wants to stop Sienna. Art the Clown is just chaotic evil, like we were talking about earlier. He has no goal. He just enjoys killing people. Now that is the full scope of the theory, but let's say all of that is true for just a second. If it is, there's a few things that have to happen in Terrifier 3 that may be pretty sad and upsetting. First and foremost, Jonathan Shaw is a goner. Just like Victoria Hayes in Terrifier 1, Jonathan Shaw survived some pretty awful things in the back half of Terrifier 2. He got slashed and whipped like 100 times by Art the Clown, but he also got his fingers bitten off at one point. Not only is that so messed up, but I believe Jonathan is infected with whatever Victoria Hayes and Art the Clown have. My prediction now is that Jonathan Shaw is going to look like a clown by the time Terrifier 3 ends, just like their ghost mom during that one weird scene in Terrifier 2. I'm also predicting that Sienna Shaw is like this chosen character that has this destiny of taking down this evil entity, whatever it ends up being, and that's going to be your climactic end to the Terrifier franchise. If we get that in 3 or maybe 4, that Damien Leone has teased before in recent interviews. So that's the crazy that I believe is going on in the Terrifier franchise, but what do you guys think? Leave me something about this crazy clown in the comments below. So if I'm being completely honest, that was 9 months ago, and I think for the most part, old Jake, 9 months ago, Killjoy Jake, was mostly spot on there. I just don't think they're looking at Art the Clown or anything else that's happening in this universe as an infection anymore. I really liked most of that video. I would take out the sequence where I'm talking about like things that have to happen in Terrifier 3. I think I was just trying to be like kind of edgy and just saying like, oh, well, because I did all this research, well, clearly this is gonna happen now. You know, here's my crazy prediction. I would have taken that out. With age comes wisdom, right? Damien Leone's words on what's going on with Victoria is that she is specifically possessed, not infected. If there's anything I would change about that whole video, it's to look at it not so much as like a disease, an infection from hell, but just like these are demonic entities that are possessing our characters in some way, shape, or form. It's going to be more of like a supernatural thing, not so much of like an infection or whatever's going on in Malignant. Honestly, I think now with how they had to change the ending of Terrifier 2, that's also adapted the lore. That's another thing I've thought about a lot in the last 9 months. I don't think that's going to be kept consistent considering, yeah, they had to change it, and they don't want any other future projects to be like Malignant either. So I think the dad actually did die because of a tumor in his head, but somehow he also knew about Art the Clown and all these other awful things going on in universe. That's a missing link that I still don't have a super consistent theory on, but I do believe somehow this guy had visions of what was going to happen with Art the Clown, and you have that prophecy angle now. I'm still pretty consistent on that, man. I do believe there is some kind of prophecy out there that the dad knew about, with his daughter being the one to take down the devil trying to come to Earth or something like that. It's so Evil Dead 2, and it feels a lot like 80s horror, which obviously Terrifier 3 and the whole franchise itself is very inspired by. Okay, this next one's probably not true, but I am excited to revisit it. While filming Terrifier 3, Damien Leone posted a picture that was a reference to Forrest Gump, which I had to comment on and basically make a whole video about. I have not seen this video since I posted it, so I'm pretty sure it's not gonna hold up, but let's watch it anyways and see if there's anything to pull from this. Terrifier 3 director Damien Leone has just teased to fans that they filmed one of the most horrific sequences in franchise history. On top of that, I have reason to believe that this Christmas slasher will bleed into New Year's Eve. Let's talk about all of these crazy updates and theories. Now hear them! Welcome to the Killjoy Jake YouTube channel. My name is Poop McGiggles, and today we're talking about a nasty old clown. I do have a very interesting theory that I want to pitch about this film concerning a brand new post from Damien Leone over on his Instagram. Damien recently posted this video that is completely bloodless, but shows the crew cleaning up a staircase as he pans down to a shot from Forrest Gump of Lieutenant Dan sad during New Year's Eve. Now, this is a picture that's taped to the director's monitor. Maybe I'm overthinking this, which I usually do, but it makes me think that they're trying to capture the same vibe as that scene from Forrest Gump, which I'll talk a little bit about so that you kind of understand, in case you haven't seen Forrest Gump, in which case, what are you doing? It's like one of the best movies ever made, dog. I can't believe I have to say this in a Terrifier 3 update, but spoilers for Forrest Gump ahead. While serving overseas in Forrest Gump, Lieutenant Dan loses his legs, to which Forrest Gump saves him, and he's not exactly super happy about that. Dude just wanted to die in the jungle after losing his legs, but Forrest saved him anyways, because he's kind-hearted. Now, a little later on in the film, Lieutenant Dan kind of resents Forrest Gump, especially during this New Year's sequence where he's belittling the guy. Forrest is pretty oblivious to this and is just having a fun time on New Year's. So there's two things I've taken away from this. I do believe that at some point in Terrifier 3, most likely the end credits sequence, we are going to bleed into New Year's Eve. It's a holiday that is only 6 days after Christmas. I don't think it's too far of a stretch considering that the plot description for this film reads Art the Clown unleashes chaos on the unsuspecting residents of Miles County as they peacefully drift off to sleep on Christmas Eve. Now, we already know that this film isn't only going to take place on the night of Christmas Eve, morning of Christmas. As you guys saw earlier, Art the Clown is at a shopping mall at some point, so it's not going to just take place on the night of Christmas Eve and the morning of Christmas, essentially. They literally filmed this during the day. There's got to be more to it than just that. My other big takeaway is that relationship between Lieutenant Dan and Forrest Gump at that point in the movie. Now, obviously, their relationship gets a lot better as the movie goes on, but at that specific point, there is a bit of resentment. I'm looking at the relationship like this. Lieutenant Dan is Sienna by the time we get to the ending of Terrifier 3, where Forrest Gump is more like Art the Clown. I know, weird, but bear with me here. Remember how earlier I told you that a lot of the main characters of Terrifier 3 are going to be Sienna Shaw's extended family? Well, I don't think they're exactly living through this one. I think Terrifier 3 is going to be like the Halloween Kills of this franchise, where Art the Clown essentially comes out on top by the time we get to the end. I'm speculating here that the rest of Sienna's family is going to die in this film, including her uncle, her aunt, her cousin maybe. That's really f***ed up because she's super young, and even Jonathan Shaw, a main character from the previous film. And why do I think that? For a couple reasons here. Damien is sick and twisted and likes to kill the majority of his characters. Look at the last 2 Terrifier films. I'm not complaining, I love horror movies like that. I'm just spitting facts. On top of that, Jonathan was attacked at the end of Terrifier 2, but survived the encounter. You might remember another character who survived an encounter with Art the Clown and ended up turning into an evil killer herself, even birthing out the head of Art the Clown out of her woohoo. Her vag, dog. We're just gonna call it that. So if the rest of her extended family is dead and Jonathan is now a killer clown, Sienna's probably gonna be pretty sad, even if she does somehow escape this situation by the time the credits roll. I could see the last shot of the movie being Sienna Shaw just breaking down into tears, so upset over everything that has happened. Maybe she does defeat Art the Clown and the rest of his clown posse. The Terrifier franchise is turning into an ICP concert real fast, but she's not exactly gonna be the happiest fella by the time the credits roll on this one, very similar to Lieutenant Dan situation mid-Forrest Gump movie. I can already see them utilizing that same juxtaposition in Forrest Gump here in Terrifier 3. It's New Year's Eve, everybody's celebrating about a new year, but Sienna Shaw is just completely broken at this point. It's that kind of trauma, though, that I think is going to build her into an even stronger final girl. It's that trauma, though, that I think is going to build her into an even stronger final girl for part 4. Damien Leone has already teased to us that a part 4 is probably happening. What better way to set it up? This is just a great way to set up a good triumph in your final act, though, which Terrifier 3 just feels like the middle part of a long story, based off of everything we already know about it. I mean, if Sienna Shaw is like down in the dumps by the time this one ends, think about how the ending of Terrifier 4 could be super triumphant and uplifting. Maybe we learn something in Terrifier 3 about Art the Clown's origins, which may be his kryptonite. That could be utilized in part 4 to ultimately take this down. Because we didn't learn too much from Terrifier 2, but we did learn that you can't kill Art the Clown by cutting off his head. There's something else that needs to happen. I think that answer lies with the little pale girl, but we'll just have to see what Terrifier 3 ends up setting up. Today's Terrifier 3 update has me so unbelievably excited for this upcoming threequel, man. I mean, learning that there's gonna be an even more horrific sequence than anything we've really seen before in the past has me hyped, and I kind of love the idea on hitting on a surprise holiday like that. It's not exactly something we're expecting from a Christmas slasher. I don't know if that's gonna happen or not. It is just a theory, a game theory.
Don't you just love New Year's? You can start all over. Everybody gets a second chance.
That was a better video than I remember it being, because I remember when I started with that video, I was like, I saw this post from the writer-director's Instagram, and I said to myself, can I build that into a bigger theory? And I just kept coming up with ideas here and there. I think what I still agree with that theory is that, yes, they were trying to capture a certain vibe from Forrest Gump, but I don't think there's actually going to be a New Year's Eve post-credit scene now. Maybe a scene like in the hospital with Sienna Shaw like there, and she's completely broken and destroyed, and she's just watching New Year's on the television or something like that, but they're clearly not filming in that kind of setting. This one is likely going to end at that suburban house where we get to see Art like holding the axe and all that above his head. I don't think this one is going to take us all the way to New Year's Eve. I'm probably only saying that because we haven't really had a tease of that in any of the trailers, but why would we? Why would you spoil that about your movie in like the marketing for it? You know, this is an indie route, don't forget. It's not like a big studio movie that's just gonna spoil everything before you see it. I do like the idea of putting a focal point in this video towards trying to capture that vibe, that juxtaposition in that scene from Forrest Gump, which, yes, I do feel like they were trying to capture that, right? It's Christmas, it's a time we're supposed to be celebrating, being with family members, and Sienna might be dealing with the fact that all of her family is dead. I could totally see that being the outcome of Terrifier 3. That's something I still agree with, but getting so far into the point where it's like, oh, it's a New Year's Eve post-credit scene where it's going to be really upsetting, that might be me just going on might be me spiraling a little bit, getting too imaginative. Next up is a video where we talk about Jason Patric potentially playing Sienna's father after his casting announcement. Let's revisit that one. Earlier this week, Jason Patric, who played Michael in The Lost Boys, was announced as part of the cast for Terrifier 3. A new image from the film has surfaced of the character too, making me think he not only plays a similar role to Michael Emerson, but also one of the most integral pieces of the Terrifier puzzle. Let's get into it. Jason Patric has just been announced as a cast member for Terrifier 3. He's best known for playing Michael Emerson in The Lost Boys, like I've already said, a focal character that story centers on. To boil down the story from them boys who aren't lost, basically Michael becomes friends with some vampires in California and begins transforming into one himself. Yikes, what a deconstruction of that movie. Well, at least that's all you really need to know about the flick to understand where I'm coming from with today's theory. Before we get into that though, let's cover some of the other T3 details that have just been released. Filming for the threequel just wrapped in New York alongside this announcement. We had recently heard that filming wrapped this past spring, but apparently more scenes needed to be shot this month, possibly pickups or scheduling conflicts. No plot details on Patric's character have been revealed yet, but we did receive this very, very, very important shot of his character in the film that in my opinion reveals who he will be playing. I probably wouldn't be making this video if it wasn't for this picture. More on that later. As we've already heard, the cast for Terrifier 3 includes David Howard Thornton as the instantly iconic Art the Clown again, Lauren Lavera as badass final girl Sienna Shaw, Elliot Fulham as her disturbed little brother Jonathan, Chris Jericho as the dude from the sanatorium who's really obsessed with Jell-O, Samantha Scafidi as Art the Clown's possible love interest Victoria, Daniel Roebuck as the Santa Claus who gets his face ripped off in the poster, and Tom Savini. Yes, that Tom Savini. It's the third film in Damien Leone's Splatter franchise who had some interesting things to say about the most recent casting announcement. Talking about Jason Patric's involvement in T3, Leone says, "To say it's an honor and a privilege having Jason on board is an understatement. He's one of the best actors of his generation and has a deep respect for this franchise and his craft, which is why I'm thrilled for fans to see his pivotal role in the Terrifier universe." Damien goes on to praise The Lost Boys, which I think is really interesting. I knew Damien liked movies like The Texas Chainsaw Massacre and Friday the 13th, but The Lost Boys was not on my Leone bingo card. He's clearly a man of taste, and disgusting visuals, of course. As a lot of you know, I personally loved the cryptic storytelling of Terrifier 2, loosely setting up some sort of connection between the Shaw family and the franchise's carnival killer. It seems as if today's update is showing us that the next piece of the bloody jigsaw puzzle is stitched into the Christmas carnage of Terrifier 3, with this character specifically. In the photo of Jason Patric that was released via Cineverse and Bloody Disgusting, we can see drawings and sketches in the background of what seems to be bloody horror characters. This appears to be a flashback scene of Sienna's father, who, as we learned in Terrifier 2, was an artist. Jonathan possessing his sketchbook was a pivotal pivotal moment in the last film, as you'll recall. There's a possibility that Jason could be playing Greg, Sienna's uncle, who's married to her mom's sister, Jessica. But this photo doesn't really match the character's description. Uncle Greg is described as being the laid-back, cool uncle who's all American and fit. Sure, Michael definitely possesses some of those qualities, but why would this character be in a room full of creepy drawings? He also appears to be talking to a young little girl, as you'll see on the left side of the frame there. Could that be a young Sienna? Maybe this could be a touching moment between father and daughter where he reveals that one of his characters is based off of her, the Angel Demon Slayer. Let's also do a refresher on what we know about Sienna's father so far. Throughout the runtime of Terrifier 2, we got some hints towards the dad's alleged abuse towards his family members, but it all becomes clear once Brooke explains the extent of the story to her boyfriend later in the film. She tells dickless Jeff that Sienna's father started doing, quote, fucked up shit as he suffered from a brain tumor. This would lead to familial abuse directed especially towards Sienna. One day he drank an entire bottle of Jack Daniels, not sponsored, and drove himself into a transformer. He got trapped in the wreck as the car caught fire, leading to his own demise. His screams were apparently heard from a mile away. Yikes. Brooke also details that he was seeing things towards the end, which is likely a callback to all of the drawings from the sketchbook that showed Art the Clown's victims from the previous film. Sienna's father likely saw this before it even happened. My Terrifier theory for a while now, which I discuss in further detail in this video here, is that Art the Clown is some sort of parasite that was growing out of her father's head, hence the brain tumor. Somehow Sienna's father knew what he was becoming, which led to him taking his own... well, you know. More proof was thrown at this theory when the original ending to Terrifier 2 was discussed online by both Damian Leone and Chris Jericho during interviews and Reddit AMAs. What we learned from this was that Victoria wasn't originally going to birth Art the Clown's severed head. She was supposed to grow the character out of her brain, with Art finally busting out of her skull. This was unfortunately changed because James Wan's Malignant had a similar twist, and God, I hope I didn't just spoil that for anyone. Genuinely one of the best modern horror twists out there. If you haven't seen that flick yet, I worship at the Akela Cooper altar. So let's say this new shot from Terrifier 3 is a flashback of Sienna's father. What would they be showing us that would aid the overall story here? My guess is that we will actually flash back to the creation of Art the Clown. Because if this theory is true, it still leaves the important question of where the hell did Art the Clown come from if he started growing within Sienna's father's head? I personally believe that Art the Clown is not only some sort of demonic virus, if the religious and visual subtexts of Terrifier 2 have any point to them, but also a creation of Sienna's father himself. I mean, think about it. The dude drew horror characters all the time. He probably came up with Art in universe, not only being the genesis of this killer, but also Damian's self-write-in. Damian probably got this from Stephen King, who famously puts himself into his own stories all the time. I mean, name a King story with a writer as the main character. I'm sure you can think of at least one or two. So far, the timeline on this theory goes, Sienna's father draws a picture of Art the Clown, something gives him the brain tumor. Did you hear the quotes around that? Sienna's father starts going crazy, has visions, and then drives into a transformer. The freshly birthed Art the Clown goes from there to rain havoc on the townsfolk of Miles County, which we've already seen in the past two films. So whatever gave Sienna's father the tumor must be somehow connected to hell, the devil, or demons in general. While part of this theory is suggesting that yes, Art the Clown was a cartoon character at some point, I feel like there are far too many moments of symbolism in many Art the Clown stories thus far for the religious aspect to not be part of his origins too. The Clown Cafe portal looking like fire and brimstone, the shots of a ruined church within the carnival, Sienna's freaking angel costume, I mean, come on. I don't mean to sound so conspiratorial, but something supernatural is going on here. This can't just be some lunatic in a clown costume running around killing people. There is more to this clown than meets the eye. So with Damian's love for the Lost Boys and a religious aspect still needing to be apparent in this story, could Sienna's father have become friends with devil worshippers who put Art the Clown in his head? Cry Little Sister plays in the background during a deeply emotional ritual, maybe? Obviously a joke with that last little suggestion there, but old Jake thinks he's onto something. Welp, you can take off your tinfoil hats now, ladies and gentlemen, but that's my theory based on the latest update. What do you think about Jason Patric's casting in Terrifier 3? And do you agree that he could be playing Sienna's ill-fated father in flashbacks? Let me know in the comments below. So while I still do believe that Jason Patric's undisclosed role will be Sienna's father, I do believe in this shot that we got from him, like for this whole update video, that's actually Gabby. We've only gotten a few shots of Antonella Rose's character Gabby in this upcoming flick, but we do know that she kind of looks like that. She has the bangs. We already know that Bryce Johnson is playing the character of Greg, so I think that's ruled out that Jason Patric will not be playing that character. Greg is, of course, the uncle who is the father of Gabby, but it makes me think that Jason Patric had some sort of connection to Gabby specifically. I don't know what that could be, though. I imagine that both of these characters will be playing some sort of integral role in Terrifier 3, but that's yet to be revealed. So some of that I would agree with, some of that not so much. It's crazy how in just like 2 months, a theory video like that can change so much. After we got that trailer, a lot more became super clear. Now getting into a more recent video, I talked a little bit about why Terrifier 3 has a new entity, and if we will see the little pale girl in this upcoming video here. Terrifier 3 is a highly anticipated sequel for various reasons. The multi-talented Lauren Lavera is back as Sienna Shaw to kick some clown butt. David Howard Thornton looks more disturbing as ever as Arthur Claus, and that shower scene looks to be the most gruesome murder in franchise history. While all of these elements have made the Terrifier series a massive hit with the horror community, there is also the very prevalent yet super cryptic mystery at the core of Terrifier 2 that left many fans wondering what's really going on here. A big piece to this intestine-covered jigsaw puzzle is the little pale girl. With no cast confirmation or nary a creepy smile from the character in the most recent teaser trailer, many fans are wondering if she will return for part 3 or not. Is there maybe a secret clue from the previous film and the marketing for Terrifier 3 that has already told us the fate of this enigmatic character? It's theory time, baby! Terrifier 2 introduced a new fan-favorite character in 2022, the Little Pale Girl. Terrifier franchise creator Damien Leone has stated that he wanted to create a character based on the children he would see at horror conventions dressed up as Art the Clown. He's also said that this is the entity that has brought Art the Clown back to life, so he can keep laughing at his dismembered victims. He's a goofy little guy, isn't he? Although she exhibits some childlike qualities, such as enjoying a television program and spraying diarrhea out of her dress, she comes off as evil. Just like Art, behind that goofy smile lies ill intentions. She can't be seen by some characters except Jonathan and Sienna. You might remember the laundry store patron who gets bonked on the head a little too hard. He doesn't see her during that bloody game of patty cake she plays with Art. She also prank calls Sienna a little later into the film in Jonathan's voice to lead her to that abandoned carnival after kidnapping the little fella, and she's even responsible for Art's rebirth at the end of the film. She clearly isn't a real little girl, but she is, however, taking the shape of Emily Crane, a character we've only just learned about through newspaper clippings in Sienna's father's sketchbook. We learned this from the article written by Wes Torrance, nice, that the 10-year-old was found dead in a makeup trailer right outside the carnival grounds. It also says that she was the daughter of 2 prominent circus performers who come from a long line of very popular, well-respected circus acts, mimes, and similar talents. It even goes on to say that her death may be linked to an ongoing series of murders. If you haven't unmasked this ghost yet, Scooby-Doo, my money is on old Arthur the Mime, I mean clown. We have also met her mother in the first Terrifier film, the Cat Lady, who carries around a baby doll she claims to be her daughter Emily. Does that ring a bell? The Cat Lady has clearly gone mad, likely from the death of her child, which is why she maybe lives in this creepy warehouse? What is the situation there? Like, has the owner not kicked her out? What's up with that? She dies horrendously in the first film, but not before giving Art the Clown some snuggles. There's a lot to unpack with that character. So I think we've established that this entity takes the shape of Art's previous victims. For a split second in Terrifier 2, we even see it take on the form of Sienna's mother in clown makeup. She died many scenes before this via shotgun blast.
And of course, it's just the pale girl f***ing with her.
The possession factor gets even more interesting because I believe this entity can also possess anyone Art the Clown has attacked, with a massive stipulation, of course. Case in point, Victoria Hayes. Victoria was once relaxing on Halloween night when her drunk sister Tara and her ditzy friend Dawn called her for a lift. She agrees only because her roommate brings home some guy and they make out on the bed next to her. Jesus, get a room, or like a different room. After finding Tara and Dawn dead at that seedy warehouse, Victoria gets attacked by Art the Clown, ultimately leading to this sadistic butthole eating her face. Over the course of the next year, Victoria has reconstructive surgery, being the sole survivor of the the massacre, but not without paying a heavy price. She appears on the Monica Brown show a year later, where she kills the talk show host moments after the interview concludes. Contrary to popular belief, I don't think the entity possessed her to do this. I honestly think she felt as if Monica was making fun of her on the show, and Monica even admits to that on a phone call moments before her death. Victoria was made into a killer, which led her to the Miles County Psychiatric Facility. I think the entity possesses her at the end of the film only because Art got his head cut off. I also think that Victoria could have been more susceptible to possession because she had murderous intent in her past. This could explain why Jonathan wasn't possessed at the end of Terrifier 2. Both Victoria and Jonathan survived an encounter with Art the Clown where he specifically ate a piece of them. I'm thinking this is comparable to zombie rules, where if you get hit, you're probably fine, but a bite means infection. It's more complicated than just that though, as the possessed need to become susceptible with weakened spirits and morality. That's the difference between Jonathan and Victoria, at least at this point. This works really well with what's been set up with Jonathan's character and the themes of religion prevalent throughout the multiple Art the Clown featured movies. Jonathan is introduced to us as being fascinated in the Miles County Clown, so much so that he even wants to dress up as the character on Halloween night. We learned during a conversation between his mother and Sienna that they're concerned about him, as his fascination might lead to something far more sinister, like torturing animals. This is why Art and the LPG might have thrown the dead possum at the character earlier on in the film, and decided to kidnap him, opposed to Art's typical MO of mashing people into small bits of flesh. Jonathan is never seen doing anything actually evil in the movie too, besides calling his mom a bitch. Damn dude, show Barbara some respect. She's a single mother trying her best, okay? So I don't think he's susceptible to the entity quite yet. A reminder, there is a 5-year time jump in between T2 and T3, so who knows how Jonathan's personality has shifted in that time. I'm sure all of this setup is going somewhere though. It doesn't look too good for old Johnny boy. It's also worth noting that Barbara reminds Sienna of a time when she was little, where she cut off the heads of fishes while on a trip with her father. Maybe Sienna could be susceptible to the entity at some point in the future too. Or maybe this is just set up for the beheading at the end of that film. We'll just have to see. The point here being is that this entity can take on many forms and even possess certain characters. It may even have more powers that we don't even know about quite yet that could be revealed in Terrifier 3. This makes me think that Victoria will serve as the stand-in for the entity in Terrifier 3, and the LPG little pale girl may not even make an appearance. There's a practical reason for this as well, considering that Emily McLean has grown up since she filmed her scenes for T2. It wouldn't really make sense visually if the entity was taking on the shape of a deceased 10-year-old girl played by someone who is clearly much older now. On top of that, this opens up the possibility of having the entity take on the form of other victims, ones we might not have even seen on screen yet. This is where the theory gets good, people. The mystery shrouded around Sienna's father is possibly the most gripping element to the Terrifier mythos so far. Talking with her coked up boyfriend, Brooke explains that Sienna's dad got a brain tumor, became abusive, started drawing and saying crazy things, and then drove himself into a transformer after a heavy drinking sesh. What we've learned about her father so far is that he liked to draw horror characters. We might have even seen a picture of him in the upcoming Terrifier 3 here, in the form of Jason Patrick. You'll notice all of the scary drawings on the wall in the background. My thoughts here are that this brain tumor was actually Art the Clown, manifesting and growing inside of Sienna's father. I don't think this was random either, as her father might have had an encounter with the entity, who likely put the tumor there in the first place. This could be the inciting incident that set this entire franchise into motion. A lot of this is speculation, but if this is the case, we might be able to see the entity take on the form of the Shaw father to psychologically torment Sienna. This could give us some previously unknown exposition on the character and possibly even tell us how he came into contact with the entity in the first place. The tumor thing is a dead giveaway for me after hearing that the original ending for Terrifier 2 had to be changed. Originally, Victoria Hayes wasn't going to give birth to Art's head. He was going to break out from the back of her skull. This was changed as James Wan's Malignant featured the exact same twist. Apologies if I just spoiled that. If you haven't seen that film, oh my god, put it on your watch list. It is criminally underrated and from 2021, which is 3 years ago now. I really have no remorse spoiling it, sorry not sorry. I'm thinking the same thing happened to Sienna's father, which led to him seeking death. He was likely too late, which is why the clown is still running around Miles County to this day. All of the religious subtext of All Hallows Eve and Terrifier 2 makes me think that this is a demonic entity as well. This is why I think the morality factor will come into play here more for part 3. Will Jonathan or any other new characters get possessed by the entity in this next chapter? I'm excited to see how the story expands here during a really crappy Christmas. This means we might not see the little pale girl in part 3, which I have to admit bums me out a bit.
If he does make a third part of Terrifier, I hope you're in it.
Yeah.
Yeah, me too.
It makes sense if they take this route. I mean, they have to explain Art's connection to the Shaw family at this point, but I will definitely miss this underrated character. One of my favorite scenes in Terrifier 2 is the entire laundromat sequence. Not only does it humanize Art the Clown, but it also introduces a bigger mystery element that the first film didn't really have. It's possibly my biggest draw to Terrifier at this point, besides the over-the-top kills. I love basking in this ever-expanding mystery, and maybe this is the route they have to take to continue on. I wouldn't mind a quick cameo, however, if that's possible.
So obviously I am feeling a little bit of exhaustion there with the fact that I had to repeat a lot of information that I've already talked about in previous videos, but I had to get to a certain point with that one, I think. No, I guess what was going through my head was like, well, what if someone had come along and didn't know these things that I had researched and looked at? But I'm thinking about like the people who have stuck around this channel for a while, just seeing that video again. They're like, okay, we've heard that like 1,000 times, man, like get on to the new thing. Looking back on that video, I wish I had expanded a little more on Jason Patric potentially being an entity. I really wish I had expanded a little more on that, because I think I had something good going there and it made sense why I had to repeat a lot of stuff, but I didn't really get to the point of like, okay, well, yeah, Jason Patric, like this character is totally going to be one of the many forms of the entity, including Victoria Hayes, who we've already seen in the trailer. I really think we're gonna get like a flashback sequence with the dad, Sienna's father, who I believe is played by Jason Patric. That's obviously not confirmed yet, but it's speculation. But I think later on in the film, he could come back in clown makeup and all that BS, and then we kind of learn like, oh, he was one of Art the Clown's previous victims, just like Emily Crane. I think that would be a really upsetting moment for Sienna Shaw to see like basically a version of her father that's like evil and trying to kill her. It's not really her father, it's just the entity manipulating her. If that still of Jason Patric from Terrifier 3 is like some sort of flashback, that would be really cool, because we get to set up the characters being like this cool dad or whatever, and then seeing his slow decline into madness and ultimately dying. Seeing the entity then take his form would be really upsetting to the audience and Sienna, our protagonist. I think we've already seen it take on the shape of Brooke in the trailer as well. So I could see something like that happening. That would be really cool. I wish I had plugged that into that video a little more. If I could go back, I would definitely edit the ending of that a little bit. But besides that, I still pretty much agree with a lot of what I said there. Now let's talk a little bit about one of the bigger murder sequences in Terrifier 3, the shower sequence. Terrifier fans are losing their minds over the first teaser for the third film, releasing on October 11th of this year. It's the most anticipated horror movie for the back half of 2024, and I can't wait to sink my teeth into it. The big question regarding the film, though, is what will be the big scene? You know what I'm talking about if you've seen the other two films. In today's video, let's discuss how Terrifier 3 is going to once again up the ante on the gore factor and deliver Art's biggest spectacle yet. Hey everybody, I'm Killjoy Jake, and instead of having friends, I have horror movies. I absolutely love the first two Terrifier films. They feature all the campy schlock of an 80s slasher with modern practical effects. Throw that in a blender with the best slasher villain performance in recent memory, and presto, you get the franchise that currently has the horror community in a chokehold. There's obviously a lot to love about Art and his goofy antics, but it's the obscene kills that keep the majority of fans coming back. In the first Terrifier film, it was Dawn's death that really shocked the folks watching this, likely on Netflix at the time. Art cuts her in half vertically with a hacksaw. It's long, upsetting, and just plain cruel. Art's having a good time, at least. Once Terrifier 2 was announced, the fans thought there was no way the sequel could top what came before. How do you create something more vile than an innocent girl getting chopped in half from genitals to neck? It can't be done. Then, in 2022, we all witnessed the infamous bedroom scene. The even more innocent Allie gets the worst death I have ever seen on screen for any character ever. It's drawn out and has to take up a good portion of that second act. It's so horrendous, it even made people vomit at the theaters. It sounds like we're gonna have to bring our barf bags for part 3, considering the hype surrounding a new scene that is said to make Terrifier 2 look like Child's Play. No, not the killer doll movie, like children's activities. You know, so not scary. Never mind, let's move on. The first clue we had regarding the showcase scene of Terrifier 3 came a month before the new teaser trailer's release. Terrifier franchise creator Damien Leone took to Twitter to say Scarface meets Psycho, with the hashtag "you will know it when you see it."
This is likely a reference to the shower scene from both films, which are iconic and brutal. We all know what happens during the Psycho shower scene. If you don't, oh my god, watch that movie. But in Scarface, a chainsaw is used in place of a knife to unalive a character in the shower. We don't really get to see much though, which I think Terrifier 3 will be changing real soon here. In the new teaser trailer for the film, we see Art bust through a glass shower door with a chainsaw, cutting into two characters. Now, hang on, pause for a minute. Who the heck are these people? Well, if we look back at the casting call for the film from way earlier this year, we learned that two roles were designated for some sort of shower sequence. The characters are Cole and Mia, freshman college students, who together make an obnoxious couple. Okay, double pause, because I know what you're thinking. Jake needs a Terrifier video this week because they're getting views. He's just repeating stuff he's already talked about before in previous theories. What gives? Well, if you shut your yapper for 2 seconds, I'll explain. Look, there's nothing out there right now that would confirm that this scene in particular is the big showcase sequence, except for some suggestions from the director's Twitter and the teaser showing it off. There is, however, one big clue from that casting sheet that I haven't noticed until right now. I think the best way to explain it is by looking back at the previous two victims of these wildly outlandish fates. Let's start with Dawn in Terrifier 1. She's a very obnoxious character who purposefully toyed with Art a bit beforehand by sitting on his lap and taking a selfie. Art decided to pay her back by turning her into two pieces. He even takes a selfie with her corpse, making the death feel vengeful. Art murders a lot of people, obviously, but the big showcase deaths are usually a result of a character specifically upsetting the clown beforehand. Allie, for instance, ticks the guy off by refusing to fill up his bag of bloody tools with candy. She even throws the candy at him. With Cole and Mia being described as obnoxious, I can imagine them picking on Art the Clown before he revs up the chainsaw. In Mia's character description, it even says that she has a bit of a mean streak. This could be why the only shot of Jonathan in Terrifier 3 that we've seen so far is him packing up his things, potentially getting ready to flee. Maybe Jonathan's college roommate, Cole, Mia's boyfriend, talks about some weird clown they saw earlier wearing a Santa costume, lighting a fire under the dude's butt. He could call Sienna and warn her that Art is back and make his escape, setting up our third act. Cole and Mia don't give a fuck about that though, since they're looking to bone in a dorm bathroom. Man, I can't think of a worse place to do it. I don't think I've ever seen so much pubic hair in my life. Ugh. Now, the setup is there, but what will this kill actually entail to top the bedroom scene and the vertical bifurcation? That's the real question, isn't it? I have a few theories that I'm genuinely hyped to get into, but I will say that I hope I'm dead wrong. Like, I want to be completely surprised by the worst thing I've ever seen before. I hope that's the case, but here's my guess based on some recent clues. We see Art the Clown do some bloody snow angels in the shower during that most recent teaser trailer next to a severed leg. I think anyone could have guessed that these characters were going to lose some limbs, fingers, maybe even pieces of their face, but that simply can't be it. We saw Allie survive like 100 ways a human being should have died, meaning Cole and Mia are gonna get hit even harder. I'm thinking the shower is just part 1 of this sequence, but I also don't think it'll be as drawn out as that scene in part 2. Damien has specifically stated that he doesn't intend on making another 2.5 hour long movie. I think this scene, just like the tone of this movie, will be a mixture of the first and second Terrifier films. The kill will be heinous and might even feature a chase between set pieces, but it won't take up a good chunk of the act where it takes place. I think a wounded Cole and Mia will escape back to their dorm room based on this shot here. We see Art peeking his head around a corner, possibly looking into the room where the couple hides. So maybe we can dub it the dorm room shower sequence, I think the finale will happen here after the attack in the shower, where someone specifically loses half of their leg. Maybe Mia helps Cole hobble back to her dorm where she tries to stop the bleeding. Arthur Claus then pays them a visit. How does he finish the job? Well, that we'll just have to wait to see in October. Trust me, I wish I had some kind of educated guess here, but there really isn't much to go off of in terms of what that final blow is going to be. The fact of the matter is that we don't see any bodies in the shower when Art the Clown goes to do his bloody snow angel thing, making me think that somehow Cole and Mia get from point A to point B after being attacked initially. Could Art the Clown just finish the job with a good old-fashioned chainsaw kill? I'd be into that. Or maybe he uses the box cutter that he gets earlier on in the film from what I think is the opening scene. We saw him do that in the previous film. He gets that acid in the opening scene and uses it later on to throw in Brooke's face. That was awesome. This is something we likely won't know know about until we get to see the full scene in theaters this October, which isn't a bad thing. The surprise of these showcases is what makes these movies hit so hard. It's so much fun to watch these insane slasher flicks, but there's nothing like a first time. Just like shower sex interrupted by a chainsaw-wielding clown from hell. I can honestly say that has never happened to me, and I hope it never does. I'm still pretty dead set on the shower sequence being like the big showcase of Terrifier 3. I know some people are saying it's going to be Juliet's and stuff, but I feel like that's going to be more of just like a really shocking moment. We're gonna see Art the Clown kill a kid for the first time. That's gonna be the controversial scene that Damien Leone and David Howard Thornton have talked about, sure. But what's gonna be like the big drawn out sequence? It's gonna be this in the shower. They're teasing it in every single piece of marketing that has come out for Terrifier, pretty much. I mean, except for that first teaser trailer, but like everything else that has come out, man, it's been shower sequence this, shower sequence that. They're specifically not showing us any portions of the kill, really, except for that like 1/2 second shot in the teaser where we get to see the chainsaw go through Mia's arm a little bit. Dude, that's gonna be brutal. I also don't think they need to draw out a sequence like that with a child. I have talked before in the past how much I love that the Terrifier franchise can walk right up to that line, dance on it, but never crosses it. There are times where they have gotten very close, in my opinion, but they have never gotten so far to the point where I'm like, I can't even watch this anymore. It's not fun anymore. If they cross that line in Terrifier 3, I just feel like it would be a mistake. I don't want to see a movie that's like the worst thing I've ever seen. I still want to be able to have fun with Art the Clown, which is such a big factor as to why I love this franchise. Honestly, that's the biggest difference between Terrifier 1 and Terrifier 2. It's just way more fun in the sequel, which is why I love it so much. Terrifier 3 is going to keep that energy, so I don't think they're going to draw out that sequence with Juliet. That would just be ridiculous and completely go against what makes this franchise what it is now. I know some people like Terrifier 1 more than 2, but man, I think that goofy, fun, campy element to the sequel is what makes this franchise as popular as it is now. It's there a little bit in the first Terrifier, but it's definitely polished and more well-focused in the sequel. So while Juliet's mother Jennifer might meet her end in some horrible, awful way that is yet to really be shown to us, I do think that this shower sequence is going to be the one, the big showcase drawn out over the top here. To wrap up today's marathon, let's talk about my prediction for the kill count of Terrifier 3. The Terrifier franchise is known for its iconic clown and cryptic lore, but most fans continue to come back for one thing: the gore. If it's the hacksaw scene from the original flick or the bedroom sequence from the sequel, there's enough madness in this franchise to get any gorehound howling. In today's video, I'm going to try to predict how many victims Arthur Claus will claim in his third big screen outing. Now let's get into it. Hey everybody, I'm not Dead Meat, and instead of having friends, I have horror movies. Throughout the various pieces of Terrifier 3's marketing, we've only seen mere teases of the horrific onslaught Art the Clown is going to ravage upon Miles County. Between set photos and teaser trailers, we definitely have enough to start making some educated guesses, which will make today's video a little different than your average Dead Meat episode. According to Mr. Janice's count, there are 10 deaths in the first Terrifier and 27 in the sequel. He did, however, include Art the Clown on both of those counts, so let's just say 9 and 26, considering the fact that this new film is on the way with Art obviously still alive. Somehow. If we're following Randy's rules from Scream 3, this film should have a higher body count and the slasher should be nearly indestructible. Well, we can certainly cross one of those things off the list. With Terrifier 3 clocking in at 2 hours and 5 minutes, it is a little shorter than the previous film, meaning it might not top the sequel's body count. I wouldn't be shocked if we got a number that was similar to Terrifier 2's 26, but again, these movies are so unpredictable, it's tough to say. What we can talk about is what we've seen from the teasers, trailers, and stills, where we definitely see a few folks that don't stand a chance. The first bit of marketing we got for Terrifier 3 was back in November of last year, when the threequel was teased to be Christmas themed. Here we see a little girl come down the stairs after hearing some commotion. She sees the man in the big red suit and yells, "Ah! Oh my God!" Instead of jolly old Saint Nick, though, it's revealed that it's actually Arthur Claus with a big axe. Major bummer for little Juliet here. After that sick new title card appears, Art enjoys some milk and cookies next to blood-soaked walls. It's already been confirmed that none of this footage will appear in Terrifier 3, as Art the Clown actor David Howard Thornton recently confirmed in a new interview. He says this scene from the teaser was restructured for the actual film and only based on an idea back in early 2023 when they shot it. We've even seen some footage of the the actual sequence in question from the new trailers. Chrissy Fox plays Juliet's mother Jennifer. We very clearly see her getting the axe from Art in this shot here. I can confidently say that she's not gonna make it through this one alive. Speaking of controversy, I'm also pretty confident that Juliet, played by actress Luciana Van Dett, is a goner too. I don't think David or Damien would call this scene controversial if Art wasn't going to plant that axe in her head. That's too confirmed in my book. We've seen some scenes in the trailer that take place right where we left off from Terrifier 2, at the Miles County Psychiatric Hospital. We already know from that film that a nurse played by Leah Voicey and Burke here are working late watching over Victoria Hayes. After she gives birth to Art's severed head, she appears to escape, meaning these two characters don't have long for this world. We saw this shot from the trailer of Burke getting his face ripped apart by Vicky as Art's decapitated body comes to collect his severed head. Jericho even confirmed his fate in an interview earlier this year, where he said verbatim, "I don't last very long," and talked about having to undergo a facial prosthetic. My guess for this sequence is that the nurse is already going to be dead when Burke comes down the hall to see what all the commotion is about. He finds Vicky eating her intestines in this shot here and gets attacked as well. Burke will likely suffer the same fate as Victoria, getting his face mangled and torn apart. Damn, Vicky, you really only have that one trick up your sleeve, huh? You did the same thing to Monica Brown in the first Terrifier. Come up with something new! Although Monica Brown has not been confirmed dead yet, I think we can safely add Chris Jericho's Burke to the list. I will add that we also get a sequence that features Stephen Cofield Jr. as Officer Evans, a younger looking police officer likely investigating the Terrifier attraction looking for Art's body. I think he's gonna find it because it appears to come back to life here and attack him, putting the character on the count. I think Art's going to push him through the same hole in the ground that Sienna initially fell through in Terrifier 2. He might fall and snap his neck. I know that sounds tame for Terrifier, but give headless Art the Clown a break. How do you expect the goofy fella to do a bedroom scene on this dude without eyes? I imagine this is gonna be something a little more chilled out, all things considered, but I'm sure we'll get some nasty gore. Maybe a spine sticking out of his neck skin. Delicious. After Art retrieves his head and picks up his new girlfriend, Vicky and Art are seen in this shot here, looking at someone on the bus. In the cast list, there's a credit for a side character named Woman on Bus, who I think will have the misfortune of running into, this on her early commute to work. Considering that we haven't seen this character yet, it's tough to make an argument for her being a definite death. This might just be a one-off gag where the character gets freaked out and runs away upon seeing these disgusting looking vagabonds. Victoria Hayes is also a big maybe for me. We don't see much of her in the trailer besides the scenes at the psychiatric hospital. It makes me think that these scenes here that feature her in a bloody bathtub will be some sort of satanic sacrifice to bring Art the Clown back to his true form. She already birthed out his head, so why not freshen up the body too? God, that's gross. Vicky will sit on the maybe list for now. Next up is this scene in a dusty, cobweb-laden attic. Art appears to have been sitting here for the entirety of that 5-year time jump when Eddie stumbles upon him. Played by actor Bradley Stryker, Eddie seems to be the victim of the box cutter from this shot here. Is that not the most evil shot of Art the Clown ever? Oh my god. Art has the guy pinned down by the neck in this shot, so it's looking pretty grim for the high-vis jacket-wearing tradesman. Dude probably just saw something creepy in this abandoned house and went to investigate. If I've learned anything from horror movies, it's that you should never investigate a strange noise or a creepy clown staring out of windows doing a Black Christmas homage. Come on, Eddie, get with the program! At some point, Art is going to get his iconic Santa suit and sliced off beard, which indicates more death. Earlier in the year, Bloody Disgusting announced that Rob Zombie favorite Daniel Roebuck would be joining the cast of Terrifier 3 to play Santa Claus. We got to see a first look at him here where he's drinking a beer at the bar, probably after a long day of listening to Christmas wishes. Stupid kids! We get a quick flash from the trailer of the guy in pain as exhaust fumes rise in front of him. My guess is that Art saw his shiny red suit through the window, wanted to get up for himself, and cut the dude in half with a chainsaw. I am curious to see how Daniel takes the costume off before getting sliced in half though. Now obviously we've seen Art wield a chainsaw in this trailer, but we already know he's attacking other characters with it that we will definitely get to in a second here. So why would I guess that he uses the weapon in this shot? Well, Art the Clown usually collects weapons throughout these movies, as we saw especially in Terrifier 2. If you remember, Art the Clown steals acid from the morgue at the beginning of the sequel, only to throw it in Brooke's face during the third act. Speaking of Brooke, here she is popping into the Terrifier 3 trailer. I think our pal Eddie from earlier could be cutting down trees with a chainsaw, but after Art takes him out in the attic, I think the silly clown will steal it for himself. Leatherface would be so proud. He'll probably make a mess of Daniel at the bar, definitely adding another body to the Count. Art will likely give him a big shave here too, cutting off his beard and skin, draping it around his neck. Unless Santa Claus is getting some sort of sexual favor from a machine that emits exhaust, I think the dude is done for here. One of the most memorable scenes from the trailer is Art pretending to be a mall Santa and giving out toys to kids. No, seriously, look, he's actually giving toys to the children. This is a wholesome family Christmas movie. Some voice lines in the trailer tell us that the parents aren't too happy about his bloody and creepy appearance, however. There's a ton of characters in the cast list credited as angry parents too. While I'm sure this scene is going to be pure chaos, I don't think it's going to be as grim as most people think it will. Art will pass out some toys to the children, but will likely get thrown out after the real mall Santa shows up. In the cast list, another actor by the name of Chip Carrier is credited as mall Santa, making me think that Art will be thwarted as a phony before any carnage can ensue. He might be chaotic evil, but Art's not an idiot. He knows when he's outnumbered, and I don't think any of these characters will go the way of Daniel Roebuck or poor Eddie. Just a lot of screaming parents and pissed off security. Feeling bloodthirsty that night, Art makes his way to the Beta Delta Iota sorority house with his trusty chainsaw. He slices and dices Mia and Cole, two of Jonathan's acquaintances. From their character descriptions, we learned that Mia and Cole are an obnoxious young couple who like to bone in this pubic hair infested bathroom. How romantic. After all of the coverage we've seen of this shower sequence, I think this will not only be the big showcase scene of Terrifier 3, but also definitely add 2 more bodies to the count. Or should I say pieces of flesh? Considering this random leg in this shot from the teaser trailer, I don't think these characters are making it, man.
Game over, man. It's game over.
We also learned that Mia has a roommate named Alexa, but I don't think she's an actual character in this movie. That might just be a reference to Alexa Blair Robertson, the actress portraying Mia. The fictional Alexa made the right decision to go home on winter break, let me tell ya. That covers the confirmed, but I do have a few more guesses considering a couple other characters we've sort of already met. Let me explain. From the same casting call where we learned about Mia and Cole, we also got descriptions of Greg and Jessica, Sienna's aunt and uncle who likely take in our heroes after Barbara's death in Terrifier 2. Sienna appears to be living with them while Jonathan is away at college. They're supporting leads that I don't think will make it through this movie. They have way too wholesome of character descriptions to live through a Damien Leone picture. I have a feeling it'll be their intestines adorning this Christmas tree from the first poster. They also have a daughter named Gabby, but I think she might be a survivor. She's described as curious and looks up to Sienna as a role model. I could see her almost being a final girl in training. Maybe she even helps save the day by pulling a Tommy Jarvis in Act 3. I just don't think Art's going to take out 2 little girls in the same movie. That's gonna lose its shock value immediately after it happens. Like if Art just kept cutting girls in half in Terrifier 1, it would probably get old at some point. This isn't a Rob Zombie flick. As for the Shaw siblings, I have no evidence to suggest that either of them will meet their end in Terrifier 3. Although my conspiracy theory for a while now has been that Jonathan won't make it out alive. He suffered a similar fate to Victoria Hayes at the end of Terrifier 2, getting mutilated by Art the Clown. Artsy Fartsy was munching on the little dude's fingies. It makes me think that he might turn to the dark side at some point in the future. That's all just a symmetrical theory for now though. From the marketing alone so far, I count 9 confirmed victims. 5 males and 4 females. This is a similar ratio to the other Terrifier films where Art's victims are majority male characters. Yeah, so at least 9 people are going to go in Terrifier 3. I think for sure. I still pretty much agree with this one that I literally only posted 10 days ago. Something crazy would have to have happened if I disagreed with this already 10 days later. I cut the last part of the video out where I talk a little bit about how I think it's going to be less than the 26 in Terrifier 2, but I also don't think that we're counting the Clown Cafe victims, which make up a lot of the count over on Dead Meat. I think like in terms of real that actually do happen, Terrifier 3 will top Terrifier 2's. I also think the quality of the murders will be even better in Terrifier 3 as well. We did a ranking stream the other night where I talked a little bit about like all the in Terrifier and Terrifier 2, and while a lot of them are fantastic, there are some shortcomings that I feel like a third film with more money can definitely improve upon. Again, you gotta think like the writer-director of these movies, who also like edited the 2 films together and stuff, like he was doing all these practical effects on set. Like he was doing so much, he was spread so thin. Now with Terrifier 3, he actually had a crew of people working under his direction to make some of these things happen from his twisted imagination. I really think that yes, there will not only be more that actually actually do happen in Terrifier 3, not arguable ones like in the Clown Cafe, but they will also be way more brutal. I mean, this shower sequence, a lot of people do disagree with me. Like, they don't think that's going to be the big showcase sequence, and if it is, if it's not, I think we can all agree it's going to be insanely brutal. If that's like the middle of the road of Terrifier 3, what's the craziest one that we've yet to see? These movies are all about topping what came before. I mean, if you see the video that Damien Leone uploaded to his own YouTube channel before the first Terrifier even came out, he talks about wanting to top All Hallows Eve and the original Terrifier short film. In my opinion, I think he does. Even though I will say the Terrifier short film, that is really upsetting, man. I'll tell you what. Thank you all so much for watching this Terrifier 3 theory marathon. I cannot wait for the movie that drops on October 11th in theaters. Get your tickets now and see this one on the big screen. Thank you all again for watching, and as always, don't forget to kill it out there, y'all.